Hi friends, my name is Maruti and I'm the co-founder of Krakow. In this video, we'll be analyzing DashCAT 2. If you have not taken the second mock of our CAT mock series, the DashCAT, definitely please take it before you actually watch this video. In this video, we'll be looking at each of the three sections, verbal ability, LRDI as well as quant. Let us start with verbal ability. In my opinion, the verbal ability of DashCAT 2 is from the easy to medium side. I think this is definitely easier than DashCAT 1, which was slightly on the more difficult side. If you're looking at the individual sections of verbal ability, there were 4 RCs. The first RC was on consciousness. It was a philosophical RC. This was an RC which I actually found to be slightly difficult to actually read and understand. So I kept it towards the end. In general, whenever I'm starting a verbal ability section, what I try to do is I try to go through all the 4 RCs and I try to pick the first 1 or 2 RCs which I would want to attempt first. Because at the start of the section, my mind is fresh and I can concentrate better. So when I looked at this, where it was talking about consciousness and something about zombies, I felt this is something which I'm not super interested in. And I felt for me to actually pay attention, it is going to be difficult. So I left this at the end. The second one was about space travel. This I felt was a fairly easy RC to read. And even the questions were not very difficult. Sometimes the RCs are easy to read, but the questions will be difficult. This was an RC which was very easy to read, and even the questions that followed were fairly easy. So this was an RC which I feel people should definitely attempt. The next one was about semantics. It was a science and technology one. When I was going through the RC, when I was initially trying to get an idea about what the RC was about, I felt this was about programming, because semantics is something that is, at least I associate with natural language processing, NLP. So I felt this was something which will have computers as well as science and technology. So I felt this was an RC that I would want to attempt. But that was a mistake I made because I found this to be fairly on the difficult side in actually reading, where I lost concentration in the middle. There were, I think, 1 or 2 passages in the middle about some experiments that were conducted, where I couldn't really understand even after I read it 2-3 times. However, even though it was a difficult passage to read, in parts, because I felt there were 1 or 2 passages in the middle which were difficult and I couldn't really understand them, many of the questions were not related to that. As in, because the first question was related to the first paragraph, the second question was related to the second paragraph. Even when I was not able to understand 1 or 2 paragraphs in the middle, I was able to answer some of the questions. I did not get all the questions correct, but I got some of the questions correct, which itself is a big deal in reading comprehension. If you get lost in a passage, but you are still getting some questions correct, that is a bonus. So I felt this was a difficult to read passage, but the questions were medium. The questions were not very difficult. The last passage was about a history and how we actually interpret history, and about cognitive bias in historical reading. This was a passage which was easy to read, but as it often happens with me, sometimes I don't agree with the author. From a personal standpoint, I don't agree with the points that the author is making, because this was a subjective or an opinionated article. This was not an article which was a factual reading comprehension. This was an opinionated RC where I was clearly at odds with what the author was saying. So for me to actually take the paragraph seriously took some time. But even these kind of paragraphs or these kind of reading comprehensions are quite easy, because if you know that, okay, whatever the author is saying, I disagree with them, even then you actually pay a lot of attention. It won't happen that you are just bored. So even though this was a paragraph or this was an RC where I was not in line with the author's way of thinking, I could easily understand what the author was saying. So again, I was able to attempt and get most of the questions correct, because this was also an easy to read passage. Even though I had some differences with the author, still I felt this was an easy to read and a fairly easy to answer questions. So overall, the way in which I attempted them was, I first attempted the space travel one. I got most of the questions correct. The second one I attempted was semantics and science and technology, which I thought was easy, but it was actually fairly difficult. And normally what I do is, after I finish 2 reading comprehension passages, I try to take a break and I try to attempt some of the verbal ability questions. Because for me, solving a reading comprehension is a very intensive process. I have to be completely present. My mind has to be completely focused on the reading comprehension. So after 2 RCs, I normally take a break and I try to solve 2 or 3 questions in verbal ability. This time I didn't do that, because I felt after the first 2 passages, I felt my mind is still fresh and I wanted to get done with the third passage. So the third passage I attempted was the history and cognitive one before I went to the verbal ability. This I felt was a slight mistake because my accuracy in verbal ability plummeted. It was pretty bad, probably because after 3 RCs I was not able to pay any attention. And if you're coming to the verbal ability section, there were 3 ParaSummaries. The ParaSummaries were fairly on the easy side, they were not fairly difficult, but I got all the 3 pages wrong. So I would feel that they were definitely more on the medium to difficult side, because in pages, even if you get most of the ordering correct, if you get one answer wrong or one line wrong, then you will get no marks. So for example, because these are theta questions, now if you are having a para-jumbles where you feel that the right order is that sentence 1 follows sentence 2, this ordering you have figured out, this relationship you have figured out, and you know that 4 and 3 come one after the other. But you are confused about whether it is 2143 or 4321. So this way it becomes difficult for you to get 100% accuracy in para jumbles, which happened to me in this particular case, where I felt even though I was getting most of the ordering correct, I was getting one of the sentences wrong, because of which I got all the 3 para jumbles to be wrong. But again, individual, I don't think they were very difficult, because I was able to read them, I was able to form some connections, but it was just that at the last moment I was making one mistake and I was losing the entire mark. Odd one out, I felt one of the questions was definitely difficult, because I felt all the 5 questions or all the 5 lines are actually related to each other. In odd one out, what I try to do is I try not to find out the complete answer or the actual pairing, actual ordering of all the 4 lines. I try to figure out if there are any 2 lines which are related to each other. That is, if I know that, okay, this sentence is going to come immediately after the earlier sentence. If I'm able to get 2 pairs like that, where I feel that, okay, 3 and 5 are related and 1 and 4 are related, then I know that 2 is not related to any one of the remaining sentences, so 2 will be the odd one out. That is the strategy I normally use, which works most of the time, but it didn't work over here, because for one of the odd one outs, I felt that all of them I was able to figure out that they were related to some line or the other. So at that point, my strategy was not working, and I had to come back and try to figure out the exact ordering of the sentences, where it didn't actually work well, where I got that question wrong. But overall, if I have to mark the difficulty level for this section, I would say it is definitely on the medium side and slightly easy, because I felt most of the RCs were not very difficult. I was able to read the first 3 RCs and actually answer them with a good level of accuracy without actually getting tired. And then it showed an impact on my verbal ability questions like the para jumbles, which I got most of them wrong. But at least the RCs I felt were fairly on the easier side. But there were 2 RCs which were definitely difficult to read. One was the conscious one, and the other one was semantics. But at least if you are getting one RC, which was like the space travel one, which is easy to read, and if you are putting effort, you will get all the 4 questions correct. That is a very big help, especially when you are starting the examination. So another thing I would want you to remember is the order in which you read the reading comprehensions matters quite a lot. For example, if I had started the examination with the consciousness and philosophy essay, which was the first reading comprehension, I think I would have got stuck there, and probably a lot of my brain would have gotten tired, and then my accuracy would have suffered in all the remaining RCs. But I feel because I picked the space travel one as the first RC to solve after going through all the 4 RCs, I felt I made a good choice, where I picked an easy RC, an RC where I was interested in, and I was able to score quite well. So overall, I would say a good mark in this verbal section would be 30 plus. If you are scoring 30 plus in this section, I think you have done fairly well. If you are able to score 40 plus, I think you have done exceptionally well. And if you have scored less than 15 in this particular section, then I would say you would have to work harder and try to improve your score. If you are somebody who is aiming to score a very good percentile in CAT, then definitely you should try to score 30 plus in this section. The next section to look at is LRDA. The LRDA of DashCAT 2 is, in my opinion, slightly peculiar, because there are some sets which are definitely on the easier sides and some sets which are slightly on the more difficult side. This kind of a section is very good for people who are very scared of LRDA, because it is not a very scoring section, so it is possible that they will get the sets which are very easy and are gotten by most people, and the difficult sets very few people will get. So the people who are having this phobia of LRDA, or they consider LRDA as their weak section, will not lose out a lot based on their performance in this particular section. So let us look at the 4 sets. There are 4 sets. There are 2 sets which have 6 questions each. This is the selection of players set. This was the first set. And the next one is games and tournaments, the seeding set. Both of them I feel were slightly on the more difficult side. Especially I feel the selection of players, which was the first set, was fairly difficult. Now it is important, like in verbal ability as well as in LRDA, to first go through all the sets. Once you go through all the sets, you will figure out that okay, there is a set which is probably on the easier side, so I will attempt it. In this particular case, the circular arrangement set, which involved 8 players sitting around a table and you are given certain clues, you have to figure out their relative positions. This I feel is a very easy set and most people should try to get this correct. There is not a lot of complications involved. In general, in an arrangement set, what I tend to do is I go through all the clues. I then draw, in this particular case, a circle and I try to fill up as many people as possible, and then I continue to reiterate through all the clues. Using that strategy, I feel that most of the table will be filled up, which is what actually works in this particular set. So this is definitely an easy set. This is something that people should have definitely attempted. And the next one is the CPI and SPI. Here you are given a table which gives the cumulative performance index of a few people, a few students, and you have to figure out which one of them has done well in which semester, etc. Again, not very difficult. If you know how CPI and SPI are calculated, which most of you students would actually know, you will definitely be getting most of these questions correct. So this one and this one, these are the two sets that should have been definitely attempted. And one of games and tournaments, the seeding one or the selection of players, should have been partially attempted. Because if you look at it, the games and tournaments, there are 6 questions with respect to who will face whom in a particular round. Now, all of the 6 questions are not really dependent on you completely solving the set. You don't need to completely solve the set. If you actually solve the set completely, you'll get all the 6 questions correct. But even without solving the complete set, there are at least 1 or 2 questions, especially at the start, which could have been easily answered. I think especially the first question of this set was very simple, very straightforward. So that question, for example, should have been definitely answered. Even the remaining 5 questions, there are I think 1 or 2 questions which could have been answered without actually solving the entire set. That is, you don't need to draw an entire branch figuring out who has won which round and all. You can just look at the question and try to solve that particular question alone as a standalone question. Even then, there are 1 or 2 questions you would get correct. With respect to the first set, which was the selection of players set, this I felt was fairly difficult because this also involved a lot of permutations and combinations. Now, in this set, even though people would have felt that I did this question and I got it correct, there are chances for you to commit some silly mistake somewhere. Because the overall number, probably you forgot to multiply with 3 factorial, or probably you forgot to multiply or divide it by 2 factorial. There are many ways or many banana skins that are involved in this particular set, which is why I would consider this to be a fairly difficult set. But 2 sets are fairly easy. 1 set also is a difficult set, but you could get some questions correct in the third set. Overall, if you ask me what is a good score in this particular set, you should definitely get the 4 questions in circular arrangement. So here you should get 12 marks. From the CP and SP, again, you should get 12 marks. But because this is an examination, not everything can be taken for granted. Overall, I would say if you are scoring 20 plus in this section, you have done a fairly good job. You should be very proud of yourself. If for some reason you have scored, you have done very well and scored 30 plus, I think this is an exceptionally good score. That would imply that you got the 12 plus 12, that is 24 marks correct. And in addition to it, you have gotten some of the questions correct in the 6 question sets, which is again definitely possible. But that means that you have done fairly well. Anybody who has scored 40 plus in this section, I think is a genius. But anyway, coming back to it, the things that you should remember is first go through all the 4 sets. Figure out what are the sets which are easy and the sets which are difficult. If you had done it, you would have attempted the second set and you would have attempted the 4th set. These 2 sets are not difficult, you would have gotten them correct. Then you would have gone to probably the first set with the selection of players. You would have figured out that this is fairly complex. I would not want to go here and come back to games and tournaments. Here you would have gotten a few questions correct. That is the strategy that a normal student should use when he is approaching LRDI section.
Hi friends, welcome to Krako's video series. In this particular video, I'll be reviewing or doing an analysis for DC2 quant section. So I have taken a live attempt of the quant section and the LRDI section. Maruti took the live attempt for the verbal section. So in the same analysis page, you should see where you're seeing this DC2 analysis would be put up even on YouTube. But within like your DashCAT in the solutions page in the analysis page, you will be able to see the analysis video and the attempt video also. So please do check out the live attempt videos. That will give you an insight into how to actually quickly solve questions. Most of the time we teach you how to properly solve them with each step involved, but at times you should be able to take a few shortcuts. Once you get an instinct for a question, you should be able to take those kind of shortcuts to solve quickly. So that you can get an insight into that by seeing the live attempts. So please do check out the live attempts. In this, I'll be analyzing the DC2 based on what I felt from the first person perspective after taking the in a mock format. So basically I felt this was on the easier side. Till now I have never been able to actually complete 22 questions in actual CAT. Most of the time my attempt is fairly lower than that. I could think that okay, maybe this was a good day where I had more attempt, but I feel what actually happened was that the arithmetic questions in DC2 were on the easier side. They were not time consuming, and because they were not very time consuming, there is a very the attempt level that you should have actually had in this particular quant section should have been higher. So basically if you do X questions generally, in this particular DC2 quant section, you should have done X plus 2 or X plus 3. Just because the time per question was lesser. Not that each question was easier, but the number of steps involved or the number of time taken to actually reach to the question was lesser in most cases, which meant your attempt consequently should have been higher in this particular DashCAT. So in this, I had time to see all the questions. I couldn't attempt all the questions, but I had time to see all the questions and seriously consider and try to solve all the questions. So ideally in this kind of this, I think you should try to attempt 15 plus questions in this kind of this. A good attempt would be 18 plus, but at least you should try to attempt 15 plus questions, especially in a test like this, where the time per question required, time to get the correct answer per question that is required is not very high. Sometimes to solve the question to get to the right answer, you need 2.5 minutes or so, and in that case, that puts a natural limit on the number of questions that you can solve in 40 minutes, but that was not the case over here. To get to the correct answer, you did not need 2 minutes plus, you could solve many questions in under 2 minutes. So that is basically what you should keep in mind. Now over here, the key to actually why this particular section should have a high attempt rate was arithmetic section. The arithmetic section had 8 easy to moderate questions. It had I think 3 tougher questions, 3 tougher questions, but 8 easy to moderate questions. These are the questions that should fall, like if you consider the foundation of your attempt, these are the 8 questions that would make the foundation of your attempt. These would save you time. These are questions that you can rely on. Every single time in every single attempt, you should get these kind of questions right. So especially the questions on profit and loss were very simple and would have taken you less than 2 minutes. So basically if you say that you should try to attempt 20 questions, that is less than 2 minutes or around 2 minutes per question, right? So there are most of the questions in this were less than 2 minutes to get to the right answer. Profit and loss would take you 1.5 minutes to actually get to the answer. Many questions on ratio and proportion would actually take you less than 2 minutes to get to the answer. There was one difficult question on mixtures, there was one difficult question on time and work, but most of the questions were fairly easy. So you should keep that in mind, that how much time does each question take me to solve, and if it is less than 2 minutes, I should definitely be solving it, because that is basically what makes you reach your goal of solving 20 questions or 18 questions as such. Arithmetic was easy, you should have aced this. If you're not solving these 8 questions with perfect accuracy and with good attempt, then you need to practice arithmetic. As I've always stressed, arithmetic forms the foundation of your attempt. If you mess up arithmetic, it is very difficult to score well in the quant section. So if you have not scored well in the quant section, go and see how you scored in the first few questions. See how you scored in the arithmetic questions. If you didn't score well in the arithmetic questions, you have the first problem, or the most primary, most urgent problem that you have to fix is the arithmetic practice. You need to go back and see the different concepts involved in arithmetic, see how you can actually improve in those areas, and keep practicing from arithmetic. Practice would make all the difference over here, whether you take 3 minutes to solve a question or whether you take 1.5 minutes to solve a question. That entirely depends on how much practice you have. So practice like crazy from arithmetic. You will definitely do well if you have a lot of practice from arithmetic. Now, algebra in this particular DC2 I felt was tougher. So basically I think the distribution was 1 easy question, two moderate questions from algebra, or one easy question, two moderate and one hard question, or something like that. But there was one easy question. The easy question was from quadratic equations. And this easy question was a direct application of concept, like direct application of formula. In fact, there is an entire concept video dedicated to how to solve these kind of questions. Basically, if you have changes, like if you have alpha, beta as the roots of 1, how to find the quadratic equation where you have the roots as 1 by alpha, 1 by beta. It is actually like such a known concept that you have we have a concept video for that. So if you are not able to see or solve this particular question, please see that concept video. See, the point is that anything that is formulaic, anything where the concept has been discussed and understood well, you should not get wrong. So in this particular question, the quadratic equation question was something that we anticipate, we prepare for, we give you the formulas and the concept backing for, so that you do not have to spend time thinking in the actual exam paper. So if you spend time thinking over here, then you need to go and see that concept. Anything that is formula based or concept based, you should not spend time thinking, because you should already know that formula, you should also already know that concept. Okay, so this was this, but within algebra, that one question you should have solved properly. Now in geometry, I felt geometry over here was fairly difficult. There were 3 very hard questions and 1 easy question. So always your strategy in these kind of this should be that at least the easy question you should get. The easy question was on isosceles triangles counting. This is a basic isosceles triangles counting. Basically, this is a very base concept, and it's something that has been like discussed in the introduction to triangles. How to count the number of isosceles triangles, how to count the number of equilateral triangles, how to count the number of scalene triangles. All of those kind of basic things have been already taught. And you should not be missing out on this. This is basic counting, and you should not make a mistake in those kind of questions. Essentially, whenever you have like 3-4 difficult questions, it's okay to leave the harder questions, but you should not miss the easier questions. In this case, there were 3 difficult questions. Even the cones question was difficult. It was not trivial. It would take you at least 3 minutes to solve. Similarly, the question on the triangles inside the circle would have taken you 3+ minutes to solve. The question on octagons, if you remember the formula, it was easy. If you didn't remember the formula, again it would take you quite a bit of time to solve. So again over here, basically you have to remember that the questions, if they are harder, it's okay to leave those questions. But questions within geometry also, you will get one of easy questions. Not all questions in a section will be difficult. Not all questions from a particular topic will be difficult. You have to make sure that you do not skip the easy questions of that particular topic. Again, modern maths, the logs question was super easy. It was one of the easiest of the lot, and you could actually solve it within your head under a minute. Whenever you have questions which you can solve under a minute, you should definitely not leave them, because the time that you save over here, that time you can spend on answering the difficult algebra questions and geometry questions, because essentially you have less than 2 minutes per question. So whenever you gain or save time over here, you can spend that time somewhere else. So all of those easy questions are must do. They help you save time. Okay, there was in number systems, there was 1 easy question, there was 1 difficult questions. See, basically the easy question, there was one very conceptual question about base systems. Now in base systems, we have discussed formulas, we have discussed the idea of base systems, but if you have an instinctive understanding of base systems, then you could have solved that particular question. Without having a lot of experience or practice of base systems, that question was difficult to solve. On the other hand, there will always be some easy questions that you could actually solve within even the concepts where there are difficult. For example, in number systems, there was a direct question based on formula. That is when there is the same remainder when a number is divided by x, y and z. And this is a basic concept of negative remainders. If you understand the concept of negative remainders, you will know that this is a very simple question. Again, when you have 1 easy and 1 moderate, it's one thing to leave the moderate question or not get the moderate question, but you should definitely get the easy question. Anything that is directly asked from based on a concept video that you have seen, based on a formula that you have learned, you should absolutely be 100% accurate on that. If you're not getting 100% accuracy there, go and review those formula, go and review those particular concepts, formulae, etc. Anything that is directly from a concept, from a formula, you should not spend a lot of time thinking, and you should get 100% accuracy. Always remember, in all of these sections, there were questions that were directly based on a concept that has been explicitly explained to you. That is how to solve when you have the same remainder when divided by divisors A, B and C. That has been explained to you. So then you should not be making a mistake over that. Always remember, whenever there is a moderate or hard question, you get that wrong, that is fine. You learn from that, don't make those mistakes later on. But if you are getting the easy questions wrong, you're not attempting easy questions, then you have to think of your strategy again. You have to actually see whether you're properly following the concept videos, the concept coverage is right or not. Okay, the last one was on probability. That question was not easy to solve, like in traditional way. You would have to take a lot of time to solve that, like as in 2 minutes plus. But honestly, you could solve it under 1 minute using trial and error, because the probability, the product of the two probabilities that add up to, say, P and P dash, that add up to 1, and P into P dash is 0.16. Now you don't need to actually solve this equation to figure out that one has to be 0.2 and 0.8 and the other has to be 0.2. This is basic trial and error, just knowing how to solve these kind of questions quickly. So always remember that whenever you have options, use the options. Whenever you see equations like that, instead of solving those equations, just see whether there's an easy way to solve questions of this type. Always remember, it's one thing to know exactly how to go perfectly step by step and get to the answer. We always do that in our concept videos because we don't want somebody to be confused or not know how to solve. But whenever options are given, make use of the options, because the options will help you save on time. In an actual mock scenario, it is just as important to have a good attempt rate to save on time on the easier questions as it is to get the right answers. So remember, there's a trade-off between accuracy and attempt rate. And whenever you can, without impacting accuracy, if you can improve your attempt rate by like skipping a few steps and getting by trial and error and using options, definitely do that. Okay, so these are the basic things or basic takeaways I'd like to tell you about the quant section. This was on the easier side. There were parts which were harder, geometry was harder, algebra was harder, but the other parts were easy. And once the other parts are easy, you are expected to do well in them. So here question selection mattered a whole lot. Here time management mattered a whole lot. Not skipping or not solving easy questions correctly mattered a whole lot. So always remember, in your 22 questions or 24 questions or how many ever questions come in CAT day, you don't need to solve all of them. It is basic thing that you have to remember, if there is something that is easy or easy to moderate and which is based on formula or a concept that I know, I should solve it within 2 minutes and perfectly. That should be your goal as such. That's something that will get you to the 99 percentile mark in the quant section. Okay, this is my feedback on the quant section for DC2. I hope you guys go back and analyze it thoroughly. Thank you very much.